You know, there's a big difference between leadership and management. You lead people and you manage things.
What if the real reason that your team's not performing is you? Today's guest is Nigel Risner, global speaker, leadership expert, known for helping others understand themselves and their teams on a much deeper level.
Why do you think people come to work?
To earn money.
No, to get their personal needs met. Do you understand people's personal needs? Do you understand what they want? 95% of leaders have no understanding of their people.
Get ready to lead with more clarity, connection, and courage. Let's do this.
The job of a leader and the job of a parent is to make that person feel 5% better than when they came in the room. Or do they feel 5% better that you've left the room?
God, you're hitting us today. You are hitting us today. ActionCOACH, the help you need to grow your business. Nigel Risner, good to see you again. We've got the cups of tea. We've got the chocolate bars.
With Inspire and Innovation.
With Inspire and Innovation, you know, the new you were coming today. We've got Fox's Classics. Come on. Does life get better?
So we've just been telling people that every organisation needs a CBO.
A Chief Biscuit Officer.
Exactly right. More complaints happen in organisations than about biscuits and coffee than nearly anything else. People prefer to pay for good quality tea and biscuits than have shite machine, whatever. So when you look at work environments, and we're going slightly off topic here, but work environments are really key for people, that when you know that these type of biscuits is nearly worth a pay rise for some of your staff, and I'm sure we spoke about this on the last podcast about people's personal needs. Some people's personal needs are nice biscuits. Biscotti are not nice biscuits.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is being sponsored by Biscotti, but I hope not. They're shite biscuits.
It's been sponsored by Mr. Inspiration and Mr. Innovation. Well, it's a good point, actually, isn't it? Because your team members, they enjoy coffee and tea, you know.
But they don't. But they want proper brewed tea and they want proper barista-style coffee. But what they actually want is an interaction. So if you put a free vending machine in, within days there'll be complaints. Because people then are going to a vending machine, even though it might be free or it might be 10p because of it's sponsored or it's on some special deal, there's no interaction. People want interaction in communities, in their teams, with their work colleagues. That's why girls often go to the toilets in 2s and 3s. You often don't find blokes doing the same. It's because people want to communicate and it's a safe place to communicate. Coffee machines and washing hands.
All right, well, let's go to leadership and management.
Cool. You know, there's a big difference between leadership and management.
Well, I'm about to find out.
You lead people and you manage things. So unless you're a facilities manager and you work with people, you're called a leader. So everyone should understand, if you're involved in people, you're a leader. And if you're involved in facilities, it's management. But this idea that we call it management, what are you managing? You can't manage people.
No.
You can lead people, but you can't manage people. So you know that my sessions last 42 minutes. And there's a reason, because that's as long as I can last, and that's as long as people can retain information. And we're doing this at 2 o'clock, even though originally you wanted me to do this at like 4 o'clock, and I kind of went, I'm no good at after 4. And jokingly, I often say to conference organisers, I'm one of the best in the world between 8 and 12, and I'm in the top 10 between 12 and 3, and I'm in the top 62 million after 3:30. And sometimes I still get asked if I'll do that slot. And I go, but I'm not very good. And so from a leadership point of view, you need to know where your people are. Because when would you say your best hour is of the day, or 2 hours?
Best hour? 8 till 9 is a good hour.
Okay.
8 till 9 is a good
And how
hour.
much work, if you had no phone interruptions or email interruptions, how much work could you get done in that hour?
I do get a lot of work done in that hour.
So if you were doing a conference, I'd want you speaking between 8:30 and 9:30. Because your brain and the way you work is much better. I'm not sure 4:30 is the best time for however good you and I might be for us to be speaking at a large conference.
It's a good question for the audience to literally answer now as well. What's the best hour of the day for you?
And what have you put in place? And do you have accountability that everyone knows not to disturb you? So my PA, I have a new PA who's now my daughter, doesn't disturb me between normally 7 and 9 because I'm good then. Between 4 o'clock, I want to watch Homes Under Hammer, I want to watch A Place in the Sun, and I want to watch Four in a Bed.
Accountability, understanding, communication, yeah?
So, from an understanding point of view, do you understand people's personal needs? Do you understand what they want? Do you understand what's going on in their lives? Do you understand that? And there's probably about 50 questions I can give people. Do you understand? And I promise you, as hard as this is going to sound, 95% of leaders have no understanding of their people.
Because they can't ask them questions, answer them questions.
Not only can't they ask, they're not sure how to deal with it. They're not qualified to deal with it. And there's no...
What do you mean they're not qualified?
Well, they're not qualified to ask the question because they're scared of the answer. Why do you think people come to work?
To earn money.
No.
To have purpose.
To get their personal needs met. And the question is, and so you knew that two of my personal needs was a nice cup of tea and chocolate biscuits. And as I arrived here, within 8 seconds of you leaving other podcast guests who we had an interaction with, I had tea and a biscuit in front of me. How happy do you think I was with that? And then, by pure luck, in the next studio, we've got a chocolatier going on.
Yeah, look, a big thing I got off you previously, be in the room.
Look, we can talk about this for the next 17 podcasts. 90% of people are not in the room 50% of the time.
So that means 10% of people are in the room 50% of the time.
No, it means those people are actually in the room. 90% of your staff are not in the room 50% of their working day. But worse is that you and I sometimes walk into a house and we tell our wives, or it could be wives telling their husbands, the reason I'm working so hard is I'm doing this for you. And then when we get home, we're still not there. And you watch.
Have you learned this the hard way?
1 billion%. So I used to live in North London, and my office was in Surrey. And when I used to come home, it would take me an hour and a half to decompress. And when I gave up my finance company for the second time, and I didn't have to travel the same way, the beauty of being at home and just being with my kids. And when I'm on holiday, so I'm in the States a lot, 4 or 5 times a year speaking. So at 7 o'clock in the morning when I wake up, it's normally lunchtime here. So I have half an hour to do some work, even if I'm on holiday. And then at lunchtime, I have permission, get ready for that word, because that's understanding. I have permission to be on my phone for half an hour between 12:30 and 1, so I can see the end of the day, see what's going on. And then I'm with my people, whether it's my wife, my kids, and please God, with all my grandchildren. So this in 2 weekends' time, I'm going to one of my clients is the Iconic Hotel Group, and I'm going down to Chewton Glen, a most stunning hotel, great for kids, and I'm there for the whole weekend, taking all my kids, my son-in-law, son, daughter-in-law, daughter, and for the whole weekend, there's going to be no phones allowed.
Totally present, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the problem is what happens because, with your phone, you've got a camera on it. So we quickly take a picture and we get it out. And then just as we're about to do that, there's a little message here. So you've got to be really careful. Because I promise you, that moment when do your kids play football?
Yeah.
Have you ever watched them play football on a Sunday?
Saturday.
Okay. So
every weekend.
Okay, so I used to manage a football team, okay? We were like a Disney film, except we didn't win in the end. We were shocking, okay? All my kids wanted to be substituted. But there were many times one of my kids would score a goal and the father or mother was talking to a friend and wasn't watching them. And all the kid would do is turn round to look at mum or dad for validation, and they weren't there. That's no different to the workplace. So I'm going to just switch sides if you don't mind. When we do a job at work, what do you think we think completion looks like? What do you think completion is when we do a job?
Sending it off.
Okay, so that's what most people think. Or getting paid.
Okay.
The real completion is getting validation from somebody that it made an impact or made a difference.
What a big lesson.
Because, you see, doing the job is one thing. But you're just looking for some, my word is feed forward. You're looking for someone to kind of go, brilliant. And what we could do to make it even better is, because we never want feedback, because we just get destroyed in our soul.
Yeah.
So you've done a great job. And we used to, when I had my finance company, so I'm going back 25, 30 years, we would write to some of our staff's parents, say what a great job their kids had done. Success is really rated by a parental approval, peer approval, and then by money third. So I don't know if your parents are still alive.
Yep.
But imagine your parents rang you up tonight and said, I've just heard one of your podcasts. That Nigel Risner guy was a bit funny, but some of the questions you asked were amazing, and I'm really proud of you, James. How would you feel?
It's pretty good, isn't it?
If your parents said that to you. And that's what we're aiming for. So I praise my kids a lot because that's what they're looking for. They don't say it. But parental approval is really important. So anyone who's listening to this, just think about when was the last time you praised your kids about the job they've done, or if you've been at work, when was the last time you really gave great acknowledgement without saying, and what I'd like from you next month is.
Your book deserves to be published, and selfpublishing.com wants to help make it happen. You'll work one-to-one with an author strategist to write, publish, and market your book the right way. With more than 8,000 authors and 100,000 books in print, they know what works. Ready to bring your story to life? Visit selfpublishing.com/ActionCOACH right now.
Because one of the problems, you've done targets before, and I know with ActionCOACH, a good month might be 1 client, 5 clients, 10 clients. But imagine if someone's goal was to have 100 clients in their group. Do you know what comes up after they hit the number 100? What's next? You can't even enjoy it because somebody, either a coach or ourselves, go, so what's next? You've just reached a goal. I mean, my wife did the marathon. Obviously, I've not done a lot of marathon. But when people run the marathon, they complete it. They come up with 2 phrases. Never again or what's next? You've just done 26.2 miles. And they're the 2 phrases that 95% of people say. Never again or what's next? So anyone who's listening to this podcast sometimes needs to understand, what does completion look like?
Well, are we saying or suggesting is enjoy the moment, the present bit time?
Enjoy that moment and decide there is nothing more just for the moment. Do you remember when you earned your first £100?
Yeah.
No,
I don't, but...
Okay, but your first £1,000, or you did your first 10, whatever the number is, you don't enjoy it for very long. Because up comes somebody goes, well, what's next? Well, I can have another target. You can't enjoy that moment with your family. And I think I may have shared this last time, but I apologise. But when I wrote a book and I got a quarter of the way through, we went to Brighton for the weekend. When we got halfway through, we went to Centre Park. When we completed the book, we went to Florida. And my wife and my kids both went, when you're writing the next book? Because what they enjoyed was the progress and the process along the way. I mean, imagine, I don't know how many podcasts you've done. 500?
How many podcasts?
Yeah.
No. On air at the moment, about 120.
Okay, well, until you've done 500, we're not going to celebrate. That's a lot of work, and your podcasts are brilliant. I've listened to lots of them. But imagine we don't celebrate any of them. But we've got to wait till 500 or till we reach X amount of subscribers. People need to understand, going back to that word, understand, what is success? What does it look like? And because you're never going to be happy on that basis. Even the guy with the most toys still dies.
There's, I don't know who this person was, but I listened to them. And they said, a person who enjoys walking always walks further than a person that enjoys the destination.
Yeah. And have you seen that meme with the dog and the person walking?
No.
So you got the man and the dog walking, and the dog is just walking. And the man's got, the plane, the wife, the cat, the dog, the school fees, whatever. Yeah. And they say, which one's the happiest? And that's why dogs wag their tails. They're just enjoying the walk.
Not a care in the world.
The best thing is some fresh poo that they can smell. That's what they're looking forward to. And we're trying to avoid all the shit that's going on in our lives, and they're walking towards it. It's just going back to walking. And I know you do some coaching, so I'm going to give you a tip here.
Go for it.
Coaching like this is not as impactful as coaching on a walk.
Oh, I agree.
And why? Do you know why that is?
Focus and fresh air.
But it's also lack of focus because you're not looking at the person. So you've got two people walking this way. So all the time that I'm talking to you, this is what Nigel Risner's doing. I hope he's liking what I'm saying. I'm watching his face. He didn't smile at the last comment. Maybe thinks it wasn't very good. So now I'm going to try and be super, super great, and then hopefully he'll love it. Whereas if we were walking this way, or when you're driving your car with your wife, in theory you're looking forward, and the communication driving compared to over dinner. You know when you take your wife out for that romantic dinner, and you both look at each other, and after a minute you kind of go, well, how was your day? And you go, it's fine. But if you were walking, you'd have much more communication. So I often teach CEOs that if you're doing leadership with your teams, first of all, a round table is great, but don't be opposite them. Be next to them. Have tea and coffee and nice biscuits from the CBO, and you'll see a very different style of coaching.
Really cool. And, just promoting the walk and talk scenario in life is very good for you, for a manager or a leader to have one-to-ones with their team, walking and talking as well.
So I was coaching someone this morning, and I said, you need to have a wall of not just your clients, but of all of your staff, and you need to have a check system of who have you impacted in the last week, month, who have you acknowledged in the last week or month, and then do you know the paperclip theory?
No.
Okay, you've got to have this will be a good one for you, for some of your teams. You need to have 6 paper clips in your left-hand pocket. And over the day or over the week, you've got to find 6 people who've made an impact or a difference, and you move the paper clips from one side to the other.
Amazing.
Now, do you know where this comes from? Cricket. How does an umpire know how many acceptable balls have been bowled? Because they have 6 stones in their pocket. And the umpire will see how many acceptable balls have been bowled, and they move the stones from one side to the other. And when the 6 balls have gone to the right-hand side of the pocket, that's when the over's over.
When did they start doing that? I mean, that...
Hundreds of years.
That's amazing, isn't it?
But what I'm saying is we don't acknowledge enough. If I said to you, when was the last time you really acknowledged your wife?
Last week.
Okay, cool. At least it was last week. I spoke to my wife last night, and we had a major catastrophe with Santander Bank, who I hope aren't sponsoring this podcast. But I said,
We better have a word with them, haven't we?
I said, but I just want to acknowledge you for not losing your shit even more than we did for stopping your account and not giving you an explanation. So I just want to acknowledge you for being the human being that you are, because you could have gone down a really terrible route. I mean, she did on the Saturday, but she's come out of it. So I try and find ways to acknowledge my kids. My grandchildren are young, but even my 9-month-old yesterday was building a tower, and I kind of went, keep going, well done, wait. And he kind of looked at me just for acknowledgement, and then put another brick on. So even at 9 months, they understand. We think they don't. They're much cleverer than we think.
Look, recognition is the biggest driver of human behaviour, isn't it? And it costs nothing to do it. Recognise, appreciate, thank. They're kind of a similar thing.
Yes, but recognition in the moment, not in the month. And this is one of the big issues for most leaders. That what they do is they do some grand gesture at the end of the month. It might be a bonus. I don't remember what I did yesterday. I can barely remember where I parked my car coming here today. But what we say to leaders is you need to have a drawer of recognition. That someone does something right, you give them a Pizza Express voucher, you give them an Amazon voucher, you give them a bar of chocolate, and someone who gives me a bar of chocolate that says inspire. I mean, you saw my face when someone gave me a bar of chocolate. That in that moment was just as good as a pay rise. Now, obviously people need money, but instant recognition for doing a great job is worth millions.
Have you heard the Fish scenario?
No, but to share with us all.
Imagine that didn't say innovation on it. Imagine that said Fish on my forehead, yeah?
Yeah.
And you're looking at me, and that says, make me feel, Fish, important, safe, and happy.
Cool.
And so you do that, and you win friends and influence people.
The job of a leader and the job of a parent is to make that person feel 5% better than when they came in the room. Or do they feel 5% better that you've left the room? Think about that.
God, you're hitting us today. You are hitting us today. Okay, so let's talk about a different area. Forgiveness versus forgetting.
Okay. So this is a very, very big subject for me. So let me give you the original phrase that I start with. Resentment's like taking poison and hoping the other person dies. So we're annoyed with someone, we're resentful, we're really annoyed. The car in front of us pulls out, we do a middle finger and all that stuff. If that works for you, continue, but it doesn't work. That doesn't mean you can't be annoyed and you can't be angry. But there comes a point where you need to look at what is the benefit for not forgiving. And I'm not going to get political, but I was in Israel on October the 7th. 2023. So I've been in horrific situations. I've watched some horrific stuff. My son has very mild cerebral palsy. I was really annoyed with the hospital and the doctors. So I've had lots of reasons to be really angry.
And resentful.
And
bitter.
All that stuff. And the question is, that doesn't change the scenario. You know, if I hate brickwork, and I really hate brickwork, and I'm never going to work with you again, but this is where the studio is, we've got brickwork here. So either I'm just going to be annoyed and I turn my chair, we're going to change the whole studio, or I acknowledge I don't like it, but I'm just going to move on. And moving on and forgiving the situation isn't as complicated as you think.
How do we make it simple then?
Okay, you forgive people.
And it's...
But I'm not forgiving you to make you right. I'm forgiving you to make my life better. See, what we think is, if I forgive you because you made me wait 10 minutes outside and all the other stuff, and you didn't give me my special biscuits and all the other stuff, I'd like you to apologise, James. And until you apologise, I'm not going to be happy. Well, you don't know that I've been waiting 10 minutes. You don't know that I'm no longer eating biscuits and I'm now eating only dark chocolate, or for religious reasons or whatever. So you don't even know the scenario. And worse is, suppose I leave here and I'm really angry and I've not shared with you that how disrespectful. He didn't get me biscuits, he didn't get me chocolate. You don't know. And I'm now got to drive a journey of an hour home, really angry. And you know that when you're angry, you make irrational decisions. And you never want to make a financial or emotional decision based on anger. You never want to make that type of decision. So now you ring me up. And you just want to say, I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you for the podcast. Oh, that was fine then. And I'm a bit short with you. And you kind of think, a bit strange. And now we stop having a bit of a conversation. And then we go to another conference where we see each other in Portugal or Spain. And I can't believe what James did. And then I start telling, worse, to other people. Now we're doing what I call third-party gossiping to someone who can't change. So I imagine I'm talking to Bob and John that time you didn't get me biscuits. So you've got no idea there's a problem. These two people have got no idea there's a problem. And they don't even know what the story is. So we don't allow in our organisation, in any organisation I've ever worked in, third-party gossiping. This is really key. So let me just explain about forgiveness. I forgive everyone when they let me down within 9 minutes.
Where did the 9 minutes come from?
That's my time. Have I told you about what my wife and I do when we're angry?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you have, but I might have forgotten.
Okay.
But
so,
I'm going to forgive myself for that in 9 seconds.
Yeah, and that's okay. But you see, you're allowed to have emotion. So imagine I've turned up and there's only full fat Coke and there's no biscuits, whatever. And I think, I'm sure I told James I love Diet Coke and I want Cadbury's chocolate and I want some Fox's double chocolate. So I'm allowed to have an emotion. But after 9 minutes, in my term, it's time to move on. So I forgive you for it. It doesn't mean I'm going to forget necessarily, but I'm going to forgive you and still love you. Now, in my home, and we talk about this a lot, my wife and I, it's our 40th anniversary on the 31st of March. Trust me, we've had a few conversations. But we've made a commitment to stay together for at least another 20 years. Then we get a telegram from the King. Don't know if you know that. When you've been married 60 years, you get a telegram from the King.
That's the goal.
Well, it is, because after then I'd been married 60 years, and Fran said I can leave.
But you know what's going to happen?
But she'll have to help me find someone else, because I don't know what I like. But if we want to argue, we're allowed to argue with each other for 9 minutes, hammer and tong. If we want to continue the argument, we both have to get naked.
You have told me before.
And I've said, don't do this in the workplace. But there's a reason for that, is that for some people, they might need 12 minutes. You can have whatever amount you need. But at some point, however horrific an event is, you can't change past events. Let's get this really clear. You cannot change a past event. And if people had known better, they'd have done better. But they didn't know better, or they had their own process going through. So people have got their own stuff going on, and they feel they were doing the right thing. I don't have to like that you're not wearing a shirt and tie, and you're not wearing the right attire, all that stuff. That's a choice. I don't have to like it. But I'm going to forgive you because I love you, and I love people. I don't necessarily like them, and I don't have to trust you. Sorry. I have to trust you, but I don't have to like you. So we spoke about trust versus like. But I love the people I work with, and sometimes they upset me. But after 9 minutes, if I'm prepared to stay here, I've let it go. And it takes that decision to forgive people. And we have a very big forgiveness process that if any of your podcasts want, I'll send it to you. You can send it to them. It's a great forgiveness process because at the end of the day, why would you hold on to stuff that doesn't work? Can I give you an example? Just hold this cup for me.
And keep me holding it, yeah?
Yeah, there you go. Keep holding it. At some point, it's going to get heavy. But you'd rather hold on to because you'd rather be right than heavy. You'd rather be right than happy. But I can change that by saying, just hold on to this biscuit, which is much lighter. After a while, that's going to get heavy. And I can then, you hold it for 10 minutes like that, it'll be heavy. I can then put that down and give you a feather, and it will be heavy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the stuff is, holding on to stuff that doesn't work for you is heavy.
Wears you down.
And the question is, what's the payoff? And if any of your listeners and people who are listening want to write to me, tell me what the payoff is, I'm happy to process it with them because there's no payoff.
And when you realise there's not, that's forgiveness.
Yes, but you could do it in a second.
You can. You know, there's what did I hear? What you hold on to holds on to you.
100%.
So, but as soon as you let it go, it lets go of you.
But it doesn't mean you can forget certain situations.
Well, it's almost impossible to forget, isn't it?
So, yeah, my son's got mild cerebral palsy. I can't forget he's got it, but I can forgive the hospital, God, Daniel, my wife, the process. They should have cesarean him. You know, the whole story. I can forgive that, but I can't forget sometimes. And it's okay. But the real question is, anytime you're in a meeting and someone says something that really doesn't resonate with you and you go into that real place of resentment or anger, and remember, if you put a D in the front of anger, what do you get?
Danger.
Yeah, most people go danger, which is kind of interesting. but you're on the road to danger. And there's nothing wrong with having an emotion. I want people to understand that. You have emotions, but does it serve you? And I promise you, and I promise everyone who's listening to this, when you can forgive past events, you'll feel lighter, you'll feel better, and your life will move on. But it's such a negative force to be angry. And there's another problem with anger, is often we're angry with ourselves. If I don't like you, there is something I can do about it. It's called I can clear with you. So, James, I'd like to clear with you that when I arrived, I couldn't get through the front door. It really upset me that I thought no one knew I was coming, and I felt ashamed and embarrassed that maybe I'd got the wrong place. What I can do about it is make sure that when I come here for the third podcast, which we'll do next year, I'm going to ring up in advance and find out what's the mechanism to get through the door. What you can do about it is confirm in writing to me how I get in the door or go to another room. And are we okay with that? And now I've cleared with you. Or I can just be angry that I couldn't get in the door. I had to go to a third office, go down 400 stairs, then come up 400 stairs and get someone to help me into the building. That's called clearing. You don't have to do it, but at least I've cleared.
I mean, let's just reverse back a second to letting go, because I don't think that we've... I think there's still some of our listeners need a little bit of help on this.
Okay.
Why is it such a struggle to let go?
Okay.
Because remember, the intention is to let go, but still holding on.
Because if we don't let go, it means they'd be right. So, you know, if you have a fight with your partner...
Yeah.
And we don't get real forgiveness and all the other stuff, and that means if I say it's okay what you did, it means they were right. Well, they weren't right. I made it really clear to pick me up at 3:00, and they came at 3:05. And then they're angry. Then they miss the beginning of the football match. Then you can't even enjoy the other 85 minutes of the match. There's a classic. You're 5 minutes late for a football match. The average match now, by the way, lasts 97 minutes because there's extra time. But you miss 5 minutes. And you can't enjoy the other 90 because you're so pissed for the first 5. And then the wife or husband says, would you like tea at half time? No! And they don't understand what's going on because we've been loving the match for 45 minutes, and they'll hold on to it. Then they go to the cinema that night out to dinner. Yeah, she deliberately didn't start the football on time. And we continue this because if we say, look, I understand there's an issue, that's okay, it's not a problem, then they were right about it. And we don't want people to be right.
That's a good mirror, actually, for people. The reason, and at the risk of offending, the reason, if this is you holding on to stuff that you're not letting go of, even though your intention is to let go, the reason you're not letting go is because you want to be right. And accept that. Look yourself in the mirror, and until you can get over that, this desire to be right, this need to be right.
Would you rather be right than happy? Which one do you want to be in life?
Right, good. If there's a choice, what do you want to be, right or happy? Everyone's going to choose happy, yeah?
Well, you'd say that. But in that moment, I told you it'd be 3 o'clock. Brilliant, so you're right.
It's in that moment that we need these questions. Yep. What's the payoff? Would I rather be right or happy? James, you're doing this right thing again. You want to be right, James.
Well, your kids haven't done the homework. Okay, you come back. They haven't done the homework. I told you about this and we're not going out for dinner now. Well, you're right about that bit. They should have done the homework. The whole family atmosphere's changed. What could you do? Because you see, there's a real reason that let me ask you another question. If you took 100% responsibility for your kids completing their homework, what would you do differently?
Oh, God, that's like a bulletproof question, isn't it? Now I'm in a corner. All I can do is answer moving forward.
Yeah.
If I took 100% responsibility, what would I do differently?
Yeah.
Encourage them, make them aware, clean stuff.
Help them out,
help them
whatever.
out.
And show them what the process is.
Yeah.
Instead, what happens is on Sunday or Saturday, if you're one of your boys or girls playing football, at 5 to 11, they haven't done their homework yet, and they promised they would. Well, you either didn't get them up early enough, there was no process in place, and of course at 5 to 11 your kid wants to play football because he's got his other mates about to play football, and then your wife and you are screaming, and you're right, it should have done. But the whole atmosphere's changed, the car journey's terrible, your son's crying, he gets on the football pitch and he's not in the room.
Yeah,
well, I told you, if you didn't do your homework you wouldn't play properly. So you're right, brilliant. What could you have done to have changed that scenario and now look at the same thing at work, that you've got a salesperson who hasn't done any sales? Well, if that energy's there, I told you wouldn't get many sales like this. Brilliant, you're right. What could you do to take responsibility to change or impact that person's life?
Starting your own business was an exciting time, wasn't it? The good days you had and the bad. You knew you'd have to work hard, but you did it for your future. Lately, though, you're missing out on the important things in life. Time seems to be slipping by. So make the change. Claim back your work-life balance and grow your business today. Visit actioncoach.co.uk.
Do you know what? Calmness, composure,
communication,
being proactive. It's a change of philosophy. That's what we're talking about.
Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I promise you now, it's taken me a long time with my wife that 40 years is quite a long time. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And even though I joked with my wife, I couldn't afford to divorce her because she would take me to the cleaners and she'd never remarry because she'd rather be right than happy. That would be classic for my wife. She'd prefer not to get married so she could be right and punish me for the next 25 years. And my wife will listen to this and she'll go, exactly right, because she likes to be right. But we spend a lot of time communicating about what do we need to do to make the situation better for both of us. So we've got a dog and we've got grandchildren. There's certain places that there's certain things got to be put in place. It's not just wait until 5 to 11 before the dog comes over or football practice happens. Life isn't, let me make it really simple for you, James. Life isn't that complicated. We've made it so complicated to give us phenomenal excuses not to succeed. We can blame the new Labour government.
Yep.
We can blame the work environment. We can blame Trump now who's come in. We can do all of that stuff. And you go, and what responsibility have you taken?
It's really powerful. Right or happy, 100% responsibility. Now, the forgiveness point, is anything unforgivable?
Okay, so, you know, you may or may not know I come from a Jewish background. I have an uncle who was involved in the Holocaust, who came over from Germany in 1938, left his parents there, was on the Kinder transport, came here with nothing. Is it unforgivable? Can you ever forgive Hitler and all the other stuff? You don't have to forgive him, but holding on to that 40, 50, 60 years later, how's that working for you?
Well, look, you can't forget. Your mind is not designed to forget. It's designed to remember emotional events.
And trauma will occur. I was involved in a horrific car crash at 15 and a half. And every time I watch a film, when I know there's going to be this horrific car crash, my body goes into a bit like PTSD. I go a bit rigid. But I've forgiven the driver who caused me to be off school for 4.5 months. If it had known better, it would have done better, and that our minibus wouldn't have rolled over. And I can't forget it. And sometimes I go through that. You know, when you watch a film and you just know this. Yeah. Oh my God. There are scenarios there, and someone will say, "I shouldn't have told you there'd be this horrific car crash." So there's lots of events that people go through, whether it's violence, whether it's rape, watching your parents go through horrific scenarios. You have to ask yourself, and we're going to say it one more time, what's the payoff for not forgiving and letting that go? And does it work for you? Now, there are some people who use that anger to propel them that I'm never going to be like my father. I'm never going to get to that situation. The problem is, and this is a bit of a weird one, when you say I'm never going to be like my parents, you end up being like your parents. The things you say, I'm never, you know, as a kid, you're probably saying things your parents said to you. And we vowed, when I have kids, I'm never going to say that. Well, you can't say that, because when you say, there's a lovely phrase, what you haven't forgiven your parents for, you do to others.
Again, that's taking some processing. It's seriously taking some processing. I read a book called, I'm not suggesting the listeners read this, by the way, not at all. It's called The Shack.
Yep.
It's a spiritual book. And one of the worst type of things happens in that. But have you read the book?
Nope, I know it.
Okay, yeah. So one of the worst type of things that happens in the book that you can possibly imagine, sort of human to human. But the book really teaches you how to forgive.
Okay, but if you want a better book, not a better book, Rob, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Okay, so you've got an Austrian physician who goes through the Holocaust, who says the greatest line, "It's a choice how I process this." Yeah. Now, there's no worse scenario. You watch one group of people go into go into the gas chambers, and you go to another who get freed. And depending whether you were left or right, old or young, whatever, and he said it's a choice. And when you get that, as we finish this podcast, that everything is a choice in life, and you choose your reactions, you choose your responses, you choose your happiness, life becomes much easier. So to all the listeners, decide how you want to choose your day to be.
Between stimulus and response, there is a space where magic happens. And in that space is your choice, is what Viktor Frankl says there. I've got some other questions for you here.
Go for it.
What's been the hardest lesson that you've had to learn in life?
That blaming other people won't change my current situation.
What made you learn that?
So I bought my partner out when I was very young, and then I had venture capital in my business, and it was a horrific mistake. I should never have done it, but ego got in the way. And do you know what ego stands for, by the way?
Go on.
Edging God out.
It's cool, isn't it?
And when you start, you forget your roots and you think, I'm bigger than this situation. Sometimes you just need to look at the situation. Though I was 25, my partner was 66, and I had to buy him out. Ask me why I had to buy him out. Because I had to. There was no reason to have bought him out when I did, but ego got in the way.
Edging God out.
Yeah.
What's the biggest lie people believe about success?
That they won't be able to cope with it. that it's really interesting that people feel they're as scared of success as they are of failure. You know, if I really succeed, then what will happen? What will happen is you'll have more opportunities.
Yeah.
You'll have more chances to help other people. Nothing excites me more than going into a school and being able to charge Diet Coke and a Cadbury's bar of chocolate, and I don't need to charge a fee because I've got other money. So by being successful, I can do a podcast in North London. I can go into a school. I can work with some non-profit organisations. That's what, and success also gives me the chance that I don't have to work every Friday afternoon. I can be with my grandchildren. So I'm not saying you all have to work that hard, but it gives you choices.
What's the most beautiful thing in the world?
Coming home and four little faces looking at me going, Papa.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I didn't used to think that. But or if the real truth be known, where one or two of them hold my little finger as we're walking and just look at me. And I'm just there in that moment. Because that's the whole point, that I could be on my phone while they're holding my finger, and I'd miss that little look up. And you know when your kids do that to you, they just look up to you. And also you're 6'3", they have to look up a bit. But when they just look up and they just want that smile.
It's an amazing picture you've painted there. Are you savouring these moments more now you're older?
Well, it's really interesting. So so I've nearly died with a brain aneurysm, and the idea of working super hard to earn an extra £100,000, or I earn 50,000 less, but I have many afternoons with my kids, because my 4 grandsons, I'm only going to have them for another bit before they go to school. So these 4 years are really precious times with them. Because the minute they go to school full time, they're going to be getting up at 7:30, going to school at 8, not coming back till 4, and then it'll be that. Do you want to go and see Grandma, Grandpa, Papa, and Nana? And they'll have mates. These 4 years are really cementing. Oh, and the loveliest line is when I hear my little one go, "But I want to stay with Papa and Nana."
That's magic.
Yeah, I mean, what's that worth to someone? And I get a phone call at 6:40 in the morning, a FaceTime of one of my kids going, "Can we come over?"
Does time get older? Does time get faster the older you get?
That's a really good question. It doesn't, not necessarily gets faster, but my Toby is 4 and a bit. He was born like yesterday, and he's 4 and a bit now, and he goes to big school in September. So
big school. It's so cool.
He goes to big school, whereas some of them are at nursery or they have a couple of days, and there's nothing nicer than picking one of them up from nursery, and the little face when they see me, because that means it'll be a treat. If Papa picks on it, there'll be a treat in the back of the car.
What's the best gift you can give anyone besides chocolate?
Time. And kids spell the word love Time. And I didn't realise that till I can spend time with them and pick them up or go to a park. And you don't have to spend hours, but when you're in those 42 minutes, it's no different to when you're watching your kid play football. You're with all those other dads or mums, and you could be on the phone, and there's other stuff you could be doing. But if you miss that moment when your kid turns around to look at you, that's a scar that they'll be going to see my wife as a therapist.
Pay attention, guys. Pay attention if that is you on the side of the pitch. Okay, so if Hollywood decided to make a movie about Nigel Risner's life, what would the title be?
He never gave up.
Why did you choose that?
Because there's many things I do in life, and there are times where I could be lazy, but I never give up. If I have an idea, I don't give up on it. So even today, I went to see another speaking bureau. I'm 27 years in my business, and I still went to see another speaking bureau just to remind them who I am, because I love doing what I do. I'm on most of their books. It's not like they don't know who I am. And that's not being big-headed, but they know who I am.
Yeah.
But just to put my face in front of them, just to remind them I still love what I do. And when you love what you do, it's not a job. When you love what you do, it's not a job. And if you don't love what you do, try and find something you do love doing. because you're going to be doing it a lot of hours.
If the audience should remember one thing, what should it be from this conversation?
Let it go.
I'm singing it.
Well, see, that's the problem. I'm sometimes on stage and say, I can hear a song coming, and there are times I've asked the audience just to sing that out loud, just let it go. Unless it pays you to hold on to it, and someone's got to really be able to justify why they're holding on to whatever they're holding on to. Anything is heavy if you hold on to it for too long. Even chocolate.
Even a cup of tea. You know what? That let it go thing was one of my favourite bits. I mean, when you said people want to be right, that's why they're not letting go. That's powerful. I mean, it's a bit of a low blow, but that reality check, and then that question: do you want to be right or happy? What's the payoff? Those are my favourite parts of this conversation. What's been your favourite part?
That we'll be doing this again next year.
He always looks forward to next year and the year after.
Yeah,
and the year
because
after.
there's so much material that I want people just to deal with those three things. You know, let it go, forgive, have some fun, and be happy.
Let it go, forgive, have some fun, be happy.
There you go.
Nigel Risner.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much.